the school that accepted you, maybe, and then which school you decide to attend.
I'm Kay, and I am attending CAPA College at Columbia University next year, and I'm teaching among other schools like Dartmouth, Williams, Wesleyan, Cornell. Hi, my name is Ella King, and I will be attending Princeton University in the fall. I was also accepted to Columbia College, Johns Hopkins, Duke, Cornell, and I'm Angela Sloan. I got into New York University and I'm going to New York University. I'm Stephanie Yang and I'm going to Columbia University. And I got in early. Hi, my name is Grace. I'm going to UPenn in the fall. Oh, by my shirt, I'm sorry. I also got accepted into Cornell, Wesleyan, Chicago, and
Hi, my name is Lauren. Next fall, I'm going to be attending Brown University. I got into Emory Case Wesleyan.
Hi, my name is Lily. I'm going to Wesleyan University next year. I got accepted into Northwestern, Davis School of
Hi, my name is Angela. I applied for a bachelor's to Yale University and I'm accepted,
Hi, I'm Edward Lund. I'm going to Princeton University next year, and I was accepted to Brown University, Boston University, and some others. My name is Amos. I will be attending Cooper Union in the fall. I applied over to Virginia, so I can apply to anyone.
I have some questions here prepared by some of the parents. I'm going to ask, I guess with you, some of them you have more experience, you have more to talk than I guess we can just, because we have so many students here. And I'm sure that everybody has their unique experience. But, if you think that you can skip some of them, basically I say that some people have more to say and, you can skip other people. You take turns. Okay, the first question is, how did Hunter prepare you for entering college life, including academic challenge, managing your own life, and balancing your own priorities?
Okay, so, well, personally, at Hunter, a lot of students, we have a very busy schedule because we don't care about academics at Hunter. We care a lot about our extracurriculars as well. So everyone is involved in something. So that's something I'll definitely carry over to college. We're going to be doing not just schoolwork, but socializing and doing other stuff outside of the classes. But in addition to that, I think that one thing that I noticed at Hunter was that a lot of the teachers were really, I think, very much like professors or had very, very good backgrounds, but they just decided to teach at a high school level. So sometimes, especially in senior year, if you guys are thinking of choosing classes, some of them are much more seminar-like. So they'll be like one teacher often to just like 10 students or like a small group of students. So that would be almost like a simulation of college classes in a way. And in general, it's like balance your time since all of us are like involved in a lot of things. Also to mention that writing at Hunter is really exceptional. We have kids going on to graduate, go on to college, and they feel like writing is a breeze in college. And that's not a common experience for everyone who is from any high school. So I guess writing on the term paper is really tasty.
So I think that because the story about the writing, I think that contributed a lot easier for when you write your college because we do write them in class. We write a lot of things about it in class. But also, our teachers are a very good resource. If you are having trouble with your project, you can always go to your and on time management, I took a lot of money students to sports, and I've heard country students say that doing sports actually makes a lot of time management because they know that practice and games will take a certain amount of time, they prioritize their time and say, oh, because I have a game today, I have to do this first, and I have to get all my work done.
네, 팔자공을 하시면 돼요.
So for me at least, I thought that Hunter offered a great, I really don't know, great social experience. I came from an elementary school after my couple of kids where it was really predominantly Asian, and I just thought that once I entered Hunter, even though there's a lot of Asian kids, there are also a lot of different kids, you know, of different ethnicities and different interests. So I personally decided to myself, but I became really interested in something like writing and humanities, and I thought that just being with all the different people that were offered a great diverse focus for me to learn from and for me to experience.
I think to really succeed in Hunter, you don't want to just go to the library and study all day. I think Hunter really encourages you to explore your interests and passions. And from my personal experiences, I was able to discover what I was really interested in and also take leadership positions. For example, I run track and field and I've stuck to it for 6 years and I'm the captain and also do a lot of community related things and I've taken a lot of leadership positions in that. So I think it's really important to really take advantage of everything that Hunter's doing.
Freedom they offer you is that to stuff,
Serena,
around game point to tell,
I
right?
think a lot of people say that in the back they cannot hear it. So when you speak, can you speak a little bit louder? And some parents request you to
I will take care of this side.
stand up when you talk so they can see you. Okay, I guess the next question is for the 7th grader, and they would like to ask, what did you find the biggest challenge and surprise in the transition from your middle school to Hunter College High School and to grade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12?
Okay, I have to stand up, right? Okay, alright. So, I have to say that the biggest surprise to me at Hunter was that I actually liked it a lot because when I got in, I was one of those kids that was like, no, Mom, I don't want to go to Hunter. This is a terrible idea. Why would I want, no, Stuyvesant is much better. Why can't I just wait? But of course, I ended up going because my mom wanted to. Okay. And I ended up loving it. So I think the lesson that I took away from that is that, first of all, sometimes your parents are right. Sometimes. And second of all, that you should really be open to new experiences because in the end, they just want to test it out.
I think one of the biggest changes going from 8th grade to high school is how much more time you have. Because with each passing year, you get more free periods, and then you can really learn what you can do with your time. I know you're going to have a different life schedule in high school, so you'll be able to participate in more clubs. That's what I really love to do. I was able to go to more clubs every day because we mostly met either activities or fifth period. And in terms of work in general, I don't think the transition was very hard. Naturally, we got a little bit more work, but it was all very useful for us. Also, I think going to 7th grade, the first thing to note is that kids should try to get involved as much as possible. I'm a big sip, I had a lot of like 7th graders as my little sip. I was often surprised by kind of how little they got involved in the community. And I really encourage them to go and talk to topics like test out the waters and get involved with your community. And then later on, go on to be really active in your passion. So that's something I recommend for 7th graders coming into winter. As for advancing the 7th grade, 11th grade is known as a particularly difficult year. I think that's like known by everyone. You got a lot of perfect grades, a lot of work to do, but I think it's a year you get progressively more work. So you are prepared by school. Just mostly the SATs that kind of add your stress in 11th grade. I absolutely agree with. Can we just turn the mics off? I absolutely agree with what Ella and Warren said. I think that's the biggest thing to note from the transition between middle school and high school is that there's so many more opportunities that are going to be offered to you. What varsity sports is being offered to high school students or to like different competitions that you can enter. So there are lots of competitions that are open to high school students, science competitions, writing competitions. These are all things that you can do with yourself or talk to your counselor about. But I think the biggest deal is that 7th grade prepares you to like start looking for more opportunities once you're in high school so that you're able to take advantage of them. And also, just to list like a few more programs, our school has a Washington seminar for 11th and 12th graders. And that's like your biology teacher staff is a new course offered from 9th grade onwards. And you get instead of doing like regular biology, you get to read science. That's for anyone who's interested in science. And into that, note the 11th and 12th grade, you get to choose some of your classes, and it will be all of your classes. So it's a lot. Oh, and also nowadays they have federal practice for 9th and 12th. For the transition from middle school to 6th grade to Hunter and 7th grade, for me it was mostly, I was surprised at how open the Hunter community was to everyone's interests and everyone's different personalities because from 1st to 6th grade, I had gone to 2 different schools where my class had been labeled a magnet class. And all the other people in the school didn't like us because they thought we were too smart, and so they made fun of us. And I think that Hunter is a great community to explore different things and to accept and share with each other your own intelligence and your own. So that, and I think that whatever grade you're in, you should really cherish the time of Hunter because. Now that I'm leaving, I realize how much I love it. I guess the best thing for me would be the teachers, because I'm always engaged amazed by like how accomplished they are. They're very humble people. They actually have data connections and experience outside the school. A lot of them like almost completely. And so I really like how a lot of people get into classes, especially for the classes. They already know study programs and I really connect them with outside classes, inside classes. Are always running classes or always running these programs outside and spending a lot of time outside classes as well. So I think that's really special. But I'm sure like you won't get that as much in a comparable class because class sizes are much bigger. They're like around 50 kids in class. Here it's 25 max. And that's what I find really special about like why decided to do it. I guess the drawback would be that our school, due to financial like limitations, we don't always have the most out-of-school opportunities. Like, for example, like we don't have, we have organizations, part of it or things that go outside the school. Sometimes we don't get as much funding. Our PTA is actually like runs about those programs, but I think our administration is very understanding and you really have to fulfill our passion. And you have to miss school days. So you're fulfill the passion. They will try their best to work with you. They may not have funding, but they will give you, I guess, as much help as possible. So, yes, that's a drawback that really prevents me.
Okay, so just in summary, the best part was teachers for me because of the small class sizes and how engaged the teachers are. The drawback was sometimes funding for out-of-school opportunities. However, the administration will always work with you to really facilitate those opportunities as best as possible.
Yeah, I agree with I think one of the drawbacks of Hunter is the lack of financial resources, which sometimes doesn't allow a lot of clubs and activities to be able to take when they're to the next level. However, I think one of the best parts of Hunter for me is people. Because of Hunter's small class size, there's only around 200 people per day. It's a really great community, and when you're at Hunter, you should really try to meet as many people as possible, because you can learn so much from your peers, not just learning from your peers. You're also learning from everyone else, and we can learn so much because everyone is coming to Hunter with a different background.
I completely agree with that. But I think the best part of my experience has been seeing all the different students, not just from my grade, because Hunter again is a very close-knit community. I have been able to meet students from, I guess, all the years. Like, I'm a basic myself, so I know a lot of the 8th graders, and I know a lot of the juniors. But what the greatest part about it is that being able to learn from each other. People are so passionate about different interests. Like, my strongest subject is Latin or Latin, but I'm able to draw interest in social studies or humanities just from all my friends around me. And even in our daily conversations, when we're not talking about some random game or something, we're able to have intellectually interesting conversations about what's going on in the news, different articles that we share. And of course, there are also like clubs. I have very big clubs at Hunter, so I've been able to, again, share different experiences, go and the drawback for me is realizing a bit too late that how much Hunter has helped me grow. I think Hunter has provided me with a lot of experiences that now I can, I guess, reminisce about and think back and class.
I'm just gonna put this out there, but does anyone have anything to say that is the best thing that isn't the teachers or the community? Because I think hands down that it's, oh, you said, all right,
Okay, well, to be brutally honest, I think one drawback to Hunter is obviously since we're a very different school, we're very competitive. I don't think like on the surface like everyone hates each other, but like kind of in certain years it starts to feel a little bit more, especially I think juniors than me. Because it's not just like underlying sentences and feel like your SEC score is coming out like every month. Everyone's starting to think about college. Everyone's like really stressed out. Everyone can't manage their workload. So that's like I guess one thing. So in that year, like you could also kind of some tension, but by 12th grade, like really it all disappeared because everyone was just happy for each other no matter what the results were. Everyone was really encouraging each other. So I mean, like the competitiveness is kind kind of comes naturally with the type of school you are, so you should be ready for that.
I mean, it wasn't, it's really hard to get all of it. The competition at our school, like, I feel like it's really good for
Vegetables, you might not like it, but it's good for you.
Actually, yeah, so I personally, like, just to clarify, like, I don't really think it's like a huge bad thing. I think it's just something that's kind of like, you know, in our environment, and in comparison, like, I visited Stuyvesant, I think the competition there is much worse. So, like, for them, like, a lot of students are just running through the hallways, not really, like, you know, interacting with each other. And I think that with, like, in Hunter, even though it's competitive, more of a collaborative competition, so everyone's helping each other.
Also, I don't, this is on, right? But for me, throughout my years, I mean, I know a lot of people assume that junior year is the hardest, most stressful year. Yes, it may be, but junior year is actually my best year. I think it's how you manage your time, because I think a lot of competition is also within yourself. How you manage your time, how you pace yourself, how you grow with others. So I mean, if you're the person speaking like, oh, what you get on your test, of course it's going to be more stressful. But if you keep it to yourself and you keep thinking, oh, I want to get better to yourself, it makes it a lot easier. So I really do face like competition or feel anything competitive.
I think a way I can describe it is like you learn to be a masochist sort of. So like it hurts, but you enjoy. You learn to enjoy it because no. Because in the end, everyone's there because they love learning, right? They love what you do, and even though you're gonna complain, oh, I have so much work to do, I have so many tests to study for, so much. Yeah, in the end, you do like you look back and you say, wow, IR was mechanically great. You know, 11th grade US history was. Yeah, that final was great. Yeah, like the teachers are great, and they really make it so much interesting. And like it's a lot of work, and it hurts, but you sort of like it.
Right, so I have a drawback. It might be a little bit personal, but it's really easy to slack off. You do not want to slack off. After 7th grade, your grades will matter, so you just make sure to keep them as high as you possibly can. Or else everything. A lot of people I know. I think that a drawback is that really small schools we don't have a lot of opportunities that are offered to other schools. So I know, for example, like Stuyvesant has classes of health, science, research. We don't have that. But I think the best thing about 2012 this year is that we're in the pioneers class, so a lot of those activities that we introduced. At Hunter, so for example, we started a research seminar program, which now is available to a lot of kids. He and I share the experience of starting American Red Cross at our school. It was a very big deal. And a lot of other schools, especially didn't have that opportunity. So I guess my advice to you guys is if you see that something's not offered at Hunter, don't feel afraid to start something new or be a pioneer in the field because sometimes it's so important to really big.
Yeah. Everyone else said the best thing about this community is that everyone is so dedicated and passionate about everything. And that even if it's not at the school, they will start at the school. And they'll make it last
In addition to what everyone else has said, like the teachers and people, I think that Hunter being an open campus is really, really a beneficial thing to us because we it gives us a lot of freedom, and because we have 6 years, we have time to figure out what we want to do with that freedom. So for instance, in 9th grade, I think I had a triple free for lunch. So I went with a friend and we explored the city. We found wonderful places to eat and some of those very interesting food. And so that's what we did with our free time. And one of the drawbacks is definitely the internet is really, really bad. And also I think for sports teams, because we're in the city, we don't have access to our own field. A lot of schools out in Staten Island and things in the suburbs, they have their own fields, their own crafts and everything, and we have to travel a bit to find those resources, and sometimes it's not always easy because I'm on the lacrosse team, and we always had trouble finding those fields because we need to get a permit for a specific field, and it just was a big hassle. But sports are definitely something that...
Excuse me, can you speak louder? We cannot hear you in the back.
How loud do you want to
Is this loud enough?
That's better.
Do you want us to speak like this all the time? Yes. Are you really sure? Yes. Okay, we'll do our best.
Wait, do you want me to repeat what I said? Okay, the next question. Let's move to college classes. SAT, ACT. How many times do you take the test? Which one do you think is And what do you suggest? What is the best time to take? And SAT too. How many do you think that we should have, or when we should take? I guess start with you.
Okay, I think you should just take SAT once. Please don't take it multiple times. It's not good for anyone. Take it in March and take 3 SAT. That's it.
Okay, personally, I took the SAT 2 times. By then, I had gotten the full perfect super score, so I was done. But I started early. I started preparing in 10th grade, like the second half of 10th grade, and I finished it by the end of 10th grade, the SAT. And then my SAT 2, I took all junior year because a lot of your classes help you fulfill it. For example, you take U.S. history in 11th grade, so you just take the U.S. history test after. If you take AP chemistry in 11th grade, just take the chemistry. Almost everyone gets a 780 or 800 after AP chemistry. So SAT 2, I would say, leave for junior year. SAT just finish as soon as possible. Most people take it junior year, but if you do get a head start, it might help you alleviate the stress a bit since you don't have to take like 4 or 5 tests. But don't take SATs that much. Just avoid it as much as possible. Okay, so I would recommend for SAT 2s, only take 2 or 3. You really don't need 3. Most colleges accept 2. Only Georgetown, I think, really accepts 3. So if you take 2, though, make sure you have a balance of subjects. Most schools like to see that. So you want to take one that's unless it's a medical program, you want to, and usually those have chemistry prerequisites, so you must take that. But then you take one in either the math or sciences. A lot of people take the math level 2 exam, and then you take one that's in the humanities, that's like U.S. history or English. That's for most schools that we 100% tend to apply to. SAT 1, as people said earlier, try to avoid it as much as possible. Don't take it too many times. It'll stress you too much. And in the end, I think a lot of us realize SAT 1s don't matter as much as we think because it's not the only evaluator for these schools. And so, yes, I think above a 2300 really is fine. So even 2200, it's really 2100. Just it's really at some point it's not what defines you. It's only a number. So yeah, I guess
I made the mistake of taking the SAT more than 3 times, and that was just fun. By the end of it, I just kind of gave up. But for the SAT 2, like say take 3, 1 for math and sciences, or 2 for math and sciences. You can take them the same day, pretty much the same thing, and 1 in English or humanities.
I would say take the SAT 1 twice because most schools super score these days. So let's say the first time you take it, you get an 800 in
like reading and writing, and then the second time you focus more on math. So like you'll get like a super score of 2,400, and most colleges will only see that, and so see like what you got each time you took it. And SAT 2s, I would say, like as people said before, take it right after you take the course for the subject. Like for AP Bio, well not AP Bio, but regular bio, I took that in 9th grade, and then I took my SAT 2 bio like right after that, and I felt like it pretty much prepared me for the entire test. So get those out of the way if you can.
I took the SAT once, and I think that if you, like basically, if you're hoping to get a really high score, if you get over 2,300 on your first time, there is no reason for you to take it a second time, or even a third time. Like even if you're a perfectionist that like wants a super perfect score or the perfect super score, just look away and walk away from the whole thing because it's not worth it. And then I actually took 4 SAT2s. I took Chinese. Don't take Chinese unless you're getting an 800. Like, you know you're getting an 800. I didn't get an 800. And then, so I took that in fall of junior year, and I took U.S. history, literature, and math. Yeah, there's 2 maths, right? Math too. I took math too. And I actually took all 3 SAT2s on the same day in June. And this really, like, it boils down to what kind of person you are. I'm like the type of person that doesn't want to, like, I just wanted to get through all of them and then be done with it, and it ended up working out okay. So like, sometimes it turns out better than you think. So if you think you can do all 3 in one day, then just like go for it. And yeah, what people said about like the courses preparing you is really true. Also, especially if you take AP USH, which I recommend that you do after 11th grade. 11th grade. Yeah, if you, like, because 11th grade USH, especially if you get a teacher that moves through the curriculum pretty fast, you'll be really prepared for the AP. And then if you study for the AP, you're pretty much studied for the SAT too. So it's like 2 tests for 1 course. So yeah.
Also, USH is U.S. history.
Oh yeah, U.S. history. Sorry. Yeah.
But also just like SAT2 math is what most 100 students take because they're usually prepared for that, and the curve is better than math SAT2 1. But really they consider equal, just whatever one you want to take. SAT2 is a little harder supposedly.
I really don't know how much more to add. I took the SAT 1 2 times, and I took my SAT 2 scattered throughout my junior year. One suggestion is do not take or try to not take your SAT 2s or 1s in your senior year. Because like senior year is a time for you to kind of just work on your essays, to kind of like self-reflect and get that all over with. You don't need standardized testing to mess that up for you.
I just want to add though that I do have a friend that took the SAT 1 only once, and that was in the fall of senior year, and it like I think it worked out for her. So like again, it boils down to what kind of person you are. So yeah.
Oh, and also if the SAT isn't your test, there's also the ACT. A lot of our friends have taken ACT over the SAT, so it's up to your personal preference.
Okay, so I took the SAT, the ACT, and the SAT2. So I have all 3 of those. I took the SAT twice. I realized it wasn't my test. I took the ACT. I took that twice. Actually, some schools request that you send all of your scores. So Northwestern wants to see every time you took the SAT, they want to see what you got on each. And I think it's okay if you take it twice because as long as you improve, that's okay. They like to see improvement. But be very conscious if the schools want to see all of your scores. If you take it 3 times or 4 times, sometimes that like it doesn't help you that much. So if you get a good score the second time, just be okay with that, and you don't have to aim for the 2,400 because in reality, like in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter that much. Your GPA matters, your extracurriculars matter, but your SAT is not the most important thing.
Okay, so I don't know if like this is a good suggestion, but I personally recommend taking the SAT fall of junior year because you have an entire summer to study for it, and it's not something where you have to like take the course like AP like APs or SATs, you can just study over summer break and then take it. And usually in the fall, that's also when seniors are taking it. And supposedly the curve is supposed to be better because it's the last time seniors can take their SATs. So if you take it the fall of junior year, you will have the senior curve and it's kind of good. And then I guess should we talk a little bit about APs? Okay, I mean you can separate. Okay, so that's my suggestion for SAT 1, and then SAT 2, just what everyone else has said about them.
Yeah, so like Lily, I realized that the ACT was better for me, so I took that. But I also took the SAT and SAT 2. Like Lily, I really want to emphasize that all these standardized test scores are only one part of your application. And personally, they weren't my best, but I was able to balance it out with my extracurriculars and my GPAs.
You also have to keep in mind what colleges you're going to, because SAT 2, there are some colleges that only want math and science, and some colleges who don't really care. And also, if you're planning to apply early decision or early action, you really shouldn't take the SATs and SAT 2s in the fall of your senior year, because then you have to rush everything, and that's really tough. Yeah, it's also very expensive. So yeah, SAT 1s, really, you don't really have to actually study for them. It's just a lot of repetition of doing practice, practice and stuff like that. SAT 2s, the languages are apparently the hardest SAT 2s, so you should probably stay away from them. And you really don't want to take, because you only really need 3 SAT 2s, so it's a waste of time and money if you want to keep taking them, and it's just not worth it.
As Katie said, if you're going to apply to an engineering school, the school probably requires you to take the math 2 SAT 2 and a physics or chemistry SAT 2. I took the math SAT 2 twice and the AP chemistry SAT 2 just once, because AP chemistry really prepares you for the SATs too. So pretty much anyone who takes AP chemistry in Plant Hunter will probably get over 750 on the SAT too.
The next question is, they said, how do you pick your target school and your dream school? And do you think that a private school on your list is enough? Because some parents have concern that they think it offers too little school to pick, because compared to Stuyvesant, I guess there is 12 or 13 schools. 10? Okay. Unlimited for Stuyvesant? Okay. And Hunter, we can only limit to a private school. So what do you think? Is it too little or too much, or is it good enough?
You do not. You do not need to apply to more than 8 private schools. I'm just gonna put it. Does anyone disagree with me here? Okay. I think in general, 8 is a good number, especially. I think it's really good that Hunter puts a limit on it, because especially at Hunter, we are a very overachieving school. We may try and hide it, but there are people out there that if it was unlimited, they would apply to more than 20 schools and kill themselves, and then they would not be here today with us. In the end, you can only go to one college. There's only one of you. So it doesn't matter if you get into all the Ivies and then another liberal arts college. Really, no one cares one of them.
Yeah. So basically, I think my sister thinks that they should have my sister and I think we should have probably 10 or 12, maybe a little bit more. 10. But this thing with 8, I think it's a really good balance. You could have a good grouping of private schools to really think about what you're choosing. Don't overrate or underestimate yourself. So one thing my sister and I did when we were choosing our private schools was we visited a bunch of schools, liberal arts schools, large universities, a variety of them, because you really want to see if you can imagine yourself there. So, for example, my sister and I, we visited Brown. We didn't really like it that much, sorry, Lauren, but yeah, we didn't like it very much. But George and Ivy, but we decided not to apply, and we're going to choose that school even if we got it. So basically like with each school, I think that's a good balance. So like really think about what schools you're applying to, and like this is not we apply to like a variety. So I applied to a lot like Williams, which I really liked as soon as I stepped on the campus. So that was like as soon as I got the results in that school, I was like, okay, I'm already really happy with my results. I'm fine going to this school. I'm like really overjoyed. So like really think about your choices. I was speaking with my counselor who didn't really come to much use in the end, but he did tell me something that was really some interesting insight, which is that a lot of Hunter kids, when they come to him in the spring and they're upset, it's because they got one of the lower schools on their list. Ivy, like a smaller Ivy or something, like and then something that more like names or by ranking that they weren't as happy with. So I think the list shouldn't function like that. Because you have 8, you have to be really careful about which schools you choose and really be happy if you end up with any one of these. Because I think we all kind of agree. Sometimes the college process can seem really random, seem unfair, but if you're happy with every single school on your list, then when spring comes, you'll be happy no matter what. So I guess like really, I think for me, 8. I think really you shouldn't have more than 15 applications, including the public schools, right? I didn't. So I'm saying I was 10, but I applied to 10. I think that was a good number. 8 privates and 2 public. But I think that for some people they wanted more safety. So it would have been helpful to have like 13 total, which means like I guess 10 private, 3 to 5 public. Like I think some people had that experience. So, but really don't apply to so many schools. It's not worth it.
Yeah, and the 8 doesn't include like public schools. So, but you really shouldn't apply to that many public schools. So many people were having problems with colleagues. During our year, so I just decided not to bother with that. So you don't really need to apply to like Hunter and Queens College and Binghamton and then community college and all that stuff. You really only need one because you're almost guaranteed to get them. But at the same time, like you don't want to apply to that many safety schools because there are some people who are upset. They apply to many safety schools and they just to really apply to the one because they're afraid. You should really get a sense of, like there on Naviance, there's a scattergram that will give you an idea, but it doesn't really reflect the real what's going to happen because each year is different because of how many people are going to actually apply. So while one year they had like 30 people going to Columbia University, the next year there might be only 10 people because of the amount of people who are actually applying. But yeah, the private schools, you should keep it to, you should only apply to like maybe 2 regional schools. You shouldn't really put that much effort into like applying to all the IVs because it's really depending on what kind of person you are, what kind of school you really want to go to, and it's your future for the next 4 years. So that's the most important thing.
One thing that I really want to stress is that you should apply to the schools that you want to go to. Don't apply to the schools your parents want you to go to. You should take your parents' advice into account, but at the end it's your decision, and you should apply to places where you know you'll be happy. So I think that it's really helpful to visit the school. You will have a chance to visit after you get into when you're making a decision. But you should also, in the college business process, you should really know who you are and what you want to, maybe not what you want to do, but what your interests are, what you're looking for in a school. And that's how you should pick where you apply. And in all honesty, the college process is very arbitrary. Some people will get in to schools who you think might not be qualified, and maybe even if you're very qualified, you might not get in. And so you shouldn't really take it so personally, because I've heard people say that whatever college they went to, even if it wasn't their first choice, they look back on it and they say, like, these were the greatest 4 years of my life, and I wouldn't change anything. So question is,
To figure out which schools are target schools and reach schools, you should really get in contact with your counselor, and that's really important in your junior year because your counselor's letter to your college is like one of the major parts of your application. So you really want to get to know your counselor really well.
I applied to 16 schools, and I guess on one hand I would like a little more leeway in terms of the 8 private schools, but I think it's really important to emphasize that you really have to do a lot of research in all your schools and really know that you want to go there, or at least you want to apply there. And a lot of the schools nowadays have early actions or early decisions, and this year actually Harvard, Princeton, and the University of Virginia actually opened up their early action programs, and that's a really big advantage, or at least in the application that you really want to look at, because they're not planning for you to be able to apply, and if you get everything done by December, then you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the year.
Early action, early decision, think really carefully about which school you choose. Because some people, even if it's early action, even if it's not binding, it still might be the only school you get by the spring, because people tend to apply early action, don't apply to as many other schools for regular decision. So you'll probably apply for more competitive schools if you got into your dream. So just think carefully about early action and early decision. They may be your only school by the spring. Early decision definitely is fine.
Wait, I just want to say I really agree with Edward. When you think about when you're entering the college process, you really want to research what schools you're going to. I personally really enjoy the limitation that Hunter gives us because it made me narrow down my list and think, okay, well, why do I like this school? And then when I went through a list of like 20 schools, I realized, oh, I only applied here because of the name. So it made me really focus on key aspects of the college that I really want to go to. That's why when I came up with my list of reach, target, and safety schools, I don't mind going to any of my schools because I really found myself loving each one.
Okay, I just want to, like, as a sort of counterbalance to what everyone's been saying here, say one thing that I can say because my mom is not in this room. I did not put that much thought into the schools that I applied to. I'm just gonna put, I'm sorry guys. I did not, like, I said, like, a lot of the schools I applied to, I said, there was one thing I liked. Like, I applied to UPenn because they had a digital media design program, and then when I visited, they were like, oh yeah, we have this digital media design program. I'm like, that's cool. So I applied to UPenn, and then I ended up going. And then a lot of others, like, I applied to Wesleyan because my friend I was like, oh, I have 7 colleges, 7 privates. And I need one more private, but I don't want to write another essay. And then my friend was like, oh, Wesleyan is I'm applying to Wesleyan and there's no essay. And I'm like, oh, let me look at Wesleyan. Oh, okay, seems like a nice place. All right, I'll apply there. So I just think, like, sure, college is a very serious thing. Like, you're gonna be spending the next 4 years of your life there, but again, you don't have to spend like weeks, months without any sleep, not like researching endlessly, like what sort of toilets does this place have? What is the interior decor of this place? Like in the end, like I mean, it boils down to your personality. Like obviously, if you're a very obsessive compulsive person, then you should put that sort of research in. But personally, I'm a more laid back sort of like go where like to me it didn't matter that much. Like the sort of specifics. So I just want to say, like, as a sort of counterbalance to my distinguished peers, that you can think differently about the college process and still succeed. So yeah. Okay, another way to think about the college process is if you really want to do one major, apply to school based on that major. So for example, Northwestern has a very good medical program, so if you're really thinking about that. Meanwhile, like Johns Hopkins has a very good international relations program. So that's like another way to think about the college process.
Okay, this question is, I guess there's some concern of the parents and some students here is because the counseling department has been so many moves, and they would like to ask, in this year when you apply for school, are the counselor helpful? When you supposed to post your counselor, and
you need to talk and discuss with the counselor in order for them to help you better?
They start off with a number of workshops in the fall of senior year, so you should definitely go to all of those. The first workshop is basically, for us, it was, oh yeah. We had new counselors for our senior year because there was a lot of management. And like we got to know our counselors really well through these workshops because they had like a lot of introductory, like kind of get to know you sort of things during lunch. And I feel like you should start to approach your counselor more after like the first one. I had a couple of friends that were taking an art course like near the counseling office, so I would go visit them and then I would go to the counselor's office right afterwards. And I saw her almost every day in the fall and like we really connected and she got to know a lot about me and I feel like that really helped with my college application.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that Stephanie and I, also, wait, well, okay, yeah, just us, I guess, because we're XY. Our counselor, and Richard, I'm sorry, Richard. we had a completely new counselor this year, Jennifer Chang. She's great, but like, I'm just saying, we didn't know her at all before the senior of this year, before the fall of senior year. And again, it's all about like sort of just like making the step to like go into the counseling office and then just talk to her a little bit like, how's your day? Oh, I'm really stressed out because I have such and such. Or, oh, today's been a really good day for me. I found a nickel on the ground. Or something like, whatever. I just know that like it might be intimidating for a lot of people to like actually go inside the counseling office and just drop by and have a chat, especially if you're a more introverted type of person. But it's okay. They're not scary. They're there to help you. So like, and a lot of my friends are more introverted that actually like made the step to go. They came out and they were like, oh yeah, she was really nice and helpful. And like, I feel like she got to know me better because I actually went and talked to her. So yeah.
Well, I am in a C group, so I had Mr. Anthony Natali for our counselor. I would say that he was really encouraging, and he was always really fun to talk with, so I visited him quite often. But in terms of the actual college process, I would say that he wasn't too helpful. Well, for example, once I went up to him and I was like, here's my college list in the fall, and I was like, I'm trying to think of like maybe more liberal art schools that I might like. Do you have any suggestions? And he was like, no. So I thought that counselors, at least have knowledge of kind of like a variety of schools. But I guess certain counselors might know more than others. But personally, that didn't really help. So I had to just do the research myself. In addition to that, when I had a college essay and I gave it to him, he never gave it back to me or ever sent any advice. So I also sent it to him over the summer because he said I could do it, but he never replied. So in terms of like actual college project stuff, I don't think they're the most helpful, especially since in the fall, like over the summer, you're required to fill out Naviance surveys, really long paragraphs about yourself, what school you want. And some people procrastinate on it, please don't do that because your counselors actually base their recommendations a lot on these. I've heard they actually excerpt a lot from them, but like that is their really like your main way of getting to know you because aside from talking with you, they also need like written work on like what you do in the school. So that's I guess the main way to get it, unless you give them like a resume or other stuff, which you can't do, that's definitely fine. But in the end, one thing I noticed is that all the counselors are really last minute workers, so they write all their recs right before early decision like deadlines, which I don't think is a really good thing because they always promise to do over the summer, but they don't. So in the fall, the counselors tend to be really busy. So you can only bother them so much. So I mean, I would suggest like give them some samples of your work. Don't give them too much, but like you share them. They're all really nice, so you can definitely approach with them, talk with them. But there's only a certain extent they can help you with the college process.
I was actually going to respond to Emma, and Laura's going to talk about this too. But I think we totally had different college experiences because I had Mr. Natali as a counselor as well, and just for me personally, he was really helpful. It's true, like you didn't know certain details about certain colleges, but that's why you have a bounce and of like other resources, right? You have the internet, right? You have your teachers who like have written recs for other students, so they can tell you about like certain schools. You have older students who are, hopefully you have friends in other grades who have already graduated or at school that you want to apply to. They can always answer questions. You have your fellow peers. You know, I've often talked to my classmates about certain colleges, what the application process is like. And for me, Mr. Natali was really helpful, not in that regard. Maybe he wasn't able to answer specific questions about colleges, but he definitely provided me with information about like scholarships. And I think a lot of your counselors will be able to do that if you ask them. He definitely encouraged me to pursue like various interests that would, you know, be good for my application. He definitely talked to me and told me, like he actually read my college essay and edited for me as well. So I think we had different processes. But I think Lauren's gonna talk about that some more.
Yeah, I think my advice is that you shouldn't do anything last minute. So I went to Mr. Natali like every week or so because I would say, hey, Mr. Natali, what's up? But I remember one time, it was a month before all my applications were due. I was like, hey, Mr. Natali, are you free? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, I have 6 essays for you. Can you read them right now? And he was like, sure. So I actually spent 40 minutes and he read through all my essays and gave feedback. So I think the best thing, I mean, the guidance counselors also have many other students who tend to. But the best thing is that you should know your schedule as well. Like you should know when your deadlines are so you can make an appointment. And you can also remind your counselor to say, hey, you know, I think you have to send in my transcript or something. So can you do that for me? I remember that happened to me with Mr. Natali. He just forgot. I went to his office and I was like, hey, can you do this? And he's like, yeah, he did that in a second. Like he actually did it right in front of me. So it's good to have your own personal reminders in addition to your counselor.
Just logistics-wise, I think it's a better idea not to email your counselors with your essays and stuff because, like, I know the temptation is very great, like, especially in sort of this electronic world, to just email and never have any, like, actual contact with your counselor. But that's not a good idea. So, like, what Lauren did is a very, like, good example. Like, if you have essays, and you should have essays, hopefully, print them out and then bring them to your counselor. Like all the counselors have a sign-up sheet on their door. You just look for the empty space if they're free, when you're free, you write your name in, and then when that time comes next week, you just go and you say, hi, Ms. Chang, I have an essay to read again for you. Can you read it and tell me what you think? And she's like, sure. And then you sit there in silence for a little bit, read your essay, and then tell me what you think. And then you go back, and then you write again, and then you come back the next week. It's very important to actually physically go to the office and talk to them rather than hoping that they'll answer your emails, which they do, but just it's not as because if you give your essay to them in person, they can't just take it and then put it somewhere else and then not look at it, right? But that's what happens a lot with emails. Like I know because I do that a lot. So yeah.
From my experience, I actually like Mr. Natali a lot. I went to see him a lot in junior year. Unfortunately, he had to leave halfway through senior year, so he wasn't there when our actual regular decision results came back. I liked him a lot, and he was really friendly and helpful when I asked him questions. I guess the main issue was that for the wait list or the early action of your deferred process, our counselors don't tend to call them up to follow up or pitch for certain students. That's something you can't expect from a public school counselor. It doesn't work like that at Stuyvesant or Bronx either, really. I think it's something you only get when you go into a private school. You pay $50,000 a year to attend. They actually pick students. So you can't expect these counselors to get you into the college, but they can give you some helpful guidance and lots of encouragement for the process. And ultimately, though, however, the counselor's recommendation is also just one part of the application. So it's great to establish a good relationship with them, but you also have teacher recommendations for the rest of your application. I think to give you guys encouragement, it will get better in the counseling department. I work for the newspapers. I've been following the process of restructuring it. Now, since Dr. Fisher is our official principal, we now have an official counseling head who seems really qualified, Dr. Hennessy, and that they will try their best to make sure the staff stays with students from 9th grade through 12th grade. That's an experience none of us had. And I think that's something that's very valuable. We don't have to do what Grace had to do, unfortunately, which is meet the counselor senior year, right? So I don't think you guys will get that same experience, so it will be better.
Also, I think that aside from applying to college, I think that your counselors are a good resource because you can talk to them when you are stressed. And when I was deciding between my final 3 schools, that I narrowed down to, I was really stressed out because it was actually just terrible for me because I really couldn't make a decision, and I talked to my counselor, and it was just really nice to relieve all the stress that I had and talk to someone about it. So I think like you can look to your counselors as friends and also mentors who can help you and provide information about colleges and the college process.
At the same time, they're not really that important. I only met with my counselor like twice. I mean, keep in mind that like we've never actually, as Alex said, we've had many changes to the department over the years. So I don't even remember what my first counselor was. We had Dr. Braun for like a year, and then and then we had like another one, and then so the most important part of our process was the actual Navian survey. I heard tales about people finding, like accidentally finding out that their counselor's recommendation was entirely copy and pasted from their survey. So it's actually really important that you do those surveys on time and actually do them correctly. Yeah, put some thought into them. Because it's probably what the college is going to do. So, yeah, the counselors it is nice to like have someone to talk to and stuff, but I think the best thing they did for us is probably deal with teachers who didn't like and issues like that. They didn't really help that much with the college process. Some counselors are known to overestimate your knowledge and some like underestimate. Some students were complaining about how their counselors were putting them to apply to like high-level Ivy schools, even though like they thought they didn't want to go there or they thought they didn't have a chance. And some students, like I heard Mr. Cummings told some students to like aim for lower schools because he thought they could get into good schools. So it's better to have not give them that much of a high level in your college making process because it's mostly supposed to be your own.
One small thing to add about the Navian surveys is that parents, you guys also have to fill out a part, so make sure you get that in on time because it's also really important for what the counselors write.
I guess I have some good news for anyone who's in, I guess, 9th grade or whoever's in the middle school now. What Hunter's trying to do is have a permanent counselor starting from their 9th grade. And when you're in 8th grade at the end of your year, you're going to be creating the Naviance account. So just make sure you put in the right email address and you actually follow up and share a little bit about it. It only becomes important your junior and senior year.
Okay, the next question is community service, extracurriculum activity. How many you do and how you manage between study and your community service and your hobby? And are you going to continue with this extracurriculum after you finish your high school?
I think I can just say this right now. 4 of us are on the tennis team. Yeah. So, as you can see, sports are a big thing at Hunter. I'm just gonna say, yeah, raise your hand if you do a sport or did a sport. Yeah. So like everyone, like even if it turns out not to be your cup of tea, like sports are something that like you probably will find yourself trying at some point, only because your friends are like, track is a good thing. Let's try. You can choose whether or not to believe them, but you'll find out. Yeah. And I also just want to say quickly, community service. For a lot of people, it's a requirement. I think things have been different since it was for us. There's only a limited number that you can do inside the school, and otherwise 25 hours. And then the other 50 hours you have to do outside the school. But like it depends on you. Like if you're not the type of person to like want to help everybody you meet, then just like get it over with. Do your community service by like volunteering. There's the AC, the summer enrichment camp where you like sort of act as a camp counselor and that kids like definitely
it definitely gets all of your school hours done. And then, but like if you are that other type of person, like I have a friend who's very involved with service and stuff, and she's even taking a gap year, so she's not going to college right away. She's going to Chicago to like help with, she's doing community service in Chicago for a year. So like it can end up being something that you really love, but again, this is something that you decide on by yourself.
And I'm going to talk more about extracurricular activities. I think it's really important to, when you're doing extracurricular activities, you should do something that you love. So two of my biggest extracurriculars are music and sports. I've done a sport from 7th grade to 12th grade every season. So I've done 18 seasons of sports. And obviously that's a huge time commitment. And I would get home at 8 o'clock every day. And I also do music, and there's a lot of practicing. I go to competitions, and I perform overseas as well. So that's also a huge time commitment. But at the end, it all boils down to whether you love it or not. Because there are a lot of people in the application process. Oh, I'm gonna join every club in the school, and I'm gonna write everything down. But colleges are obviously going to see that there's a lot of commitment, and you really need to find some clubs you're interested in and really focus on that, because only when you focus on something is where you can start to rise up. And for my community service, I finished all my hours before they installed that new policy, and a lot of my community service is new to so this is something I love doing, so I got my hours.
Okay, so, in Hunter, they have a 75-hour community service requirement, and if you don't fulfill it, you can't graduate, so you have to fulfill it. But this year, I think recently they kind of changed the policy, so like as Grace mentioned, you can only do a certain number in school. And what happened was a lot of people that went to the library, worked there, and they were just done. So I think the community service department is also revamping. So they have a whole board of outside community service activities right on the bulletin board. So it's really easy, like it's not going to be a problem. And I know a lot of classmates or friends who actually volunteer for politicians over the summer. So they got like way over like 100 or more hours just from that. So like a lot of people finish the community service over the summer. So I think that if you don't finish it at school, that's an easy way to get it done. But if you really like community service, we have lots of community service clubs. Like I think a lot of us here are involved in community service clubs. Like the animal club, we have the Rex Claws, we have 365 Tea Club, a lot of activities, and they have a lot of community service like in school. They also have out of school activities. So if you really want to do community service, you can go all the way within 100. So.
Okay, I was going to talk a little. So my main extracurriculars are actually community service and science, and they're kind of intertwined a little bit. So ever since the 7th grade, I've been volunteering at a hospital over the summer, so I was quickly done with my hours. And just like in general, I'm president of 365 and Red Cross, which Emma was talking about, which meets Monday activities and Thursday activities if you guys are interested in joining. And just like other clubs like Tea Club, you are entitled to get service hours for a lot of the community service activities that you do. And in terms of science, I've been involved in science research for the past few years, the past 4 or 5 years. I was an Intel finalist. I've competed in a bunch of science fairs around the city. And then I intertwine both of them, I guess, in sort of this like community service, science-related activity, not only by volunteering at the hospital, but every year we have an annual health fair in the Flushing area, and so many of us are involved in that. There's a really great program for you guys if you are interested in volunteering for that. The only requirement is that you speak basic Chinese. Very basic. So it's right. So just in terms of like finding different activities to be a part of, like it's not difficult to do once you're in the city. And I think you can all attest to that.
Also, in terms of internships, you need, like if you want an internship, you really need to go out of your way to find it for yourself. And it really helps, talk to parents of your friends or your own parents, use your connections. 2 summers ago, I worked at I got an internship at an office for an infertility specialist, which is something I'm interested in doing. And because my dad is friends with the person that I work with. And so you really need to go you really need to go and be assertive and find them. And don't hesitate to email or contact them. Don't think that you're being annoying to them, because if you really want it, then and you're really passionate about it, you should go and get it. And internships are really great experiences. I learned so much that summer, and it really helped me decide what I want to do in the future.
Yeah, I think it's best if you get your community service done as soon as possible, because then you can allocate your summer hours to like learn more things on your passion. I never really a sports person, I was more of an arts person, so I did a lot more like museum programs and stuff. It's especially important in the art industry to make as many connections as possible. So connections are actually like the most important part of getting jobs and stuff. So if you have a relative who works in like the medical industry and you're in the medical industry, then that's a good thing for you. You just get positions and stuff. They had a lot of people during their junior year like freaking out over getting internships because no one like wanted high school students to do their intern. But you really do have to just put yourself out there. There was one senior who just sent resumes and cover letters to all the organizations that he was interested in, and he did get into Yale, so it can do that. But yeah, it's really up to you how you spend your time, but it's best for you to actually take on responsibility and apply to these programs. A lot of programs during the summer, they're actually what you do in like spring, so you have to stay on top of things and an eye on those deadlines and make sure that you actually apply to these programs on time, because otherwise you won't be able to have them do during the summer unless it's right on your resume.
I would really encourage anyone to volunteer. Like, I was a very shy person, but once I found my interest, like, I love animals. So once I got to that, I grew with it. So, I mean, I worked my way up. When I was in 7th grade, I worked at Alex Pond because I was too young. And then I started volunteering at, like, the New York Hall of Science, the New York Aquarium. Now I'm an intern at the Queen Zoo. So you really find yourself in your extracurriculars, even if you're like, oh, I'm really lazy, I don't want to work. Like, I'm very lazy, but I drag myself up every Sunday morning to haul manure and stuff. So, you know, you'll get into it, you'll find something you love, and I mean, I don't want to make this about the college process, but once you find something you're really passionate about, it makes it so much easier to write your college application. Like, it was pretty easy for me.
So here's some practical advice. If you're in the 11th grade and you haven't done any of your hours, you really should try the summer relief program, because it just knocks out 100-something hours. It's not very work intensive. You kind of just sit there and watch your children all day. You make sure none of the children get hurt. And it's actually pretty fun because the children kind of grow on you, and yeah, you finish your 8 hours.
Yeah, can I just say something really quick? There are lots of ideas for things that you can do during the summer that I didn't think of earlier that I sort of regret. For one thing, there are a lot of travel programs that you can take during the summer where you travel abroad. Like, I wanted to go to Japan, but I only found out about it after the summer year ended, and you can't really go during the summer senior year, so don't plan out that because it's graduation, and most people like to be there for that, so you can get your diploma and graduate. But yeah, and then there's also so like if you're interested in speaking in practicing speaking a different language or something, definitely think about traveling abroad. From what I've heard, it's a great experience and it's also fun. And then another thing is you can get a job. Yes, you can get money for doing things during the summer. This is more of a thing after you turn 16, but again. Like, if you are interested in something and you're involved in the community, it's often like very easy to get a job related to it. For example, I play tennis, and at the place where I play tennis, there's a summer tennis camp, and they were like, "Oh, so you want to work this summer?" I was like, "Sure," and they were like, "You want a job?" I was like, "Yes." So that's how I got my first job.
And it's much easier to do something like to work if you are at least like mildly interested in what you're doing. Like my job was still like pretty tough because you have to handle screaming masses of children for 8 hours a day. But it was still it was bearable in the end because in the end it's tennis and I love tennis and it was at a pace I love with people I love. So yeah, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, looking to getting into a job stop it.
Okay, so my issue is probably that I'm interested in too much and trying to do everything. And so my teacher once called me a dynamo. So I'm going to try to introduce you, I guess, to some of the activities I did. Because there's a lot of opportunities out there. My baby is What's What, the school newspaper. There's also The Observer, which Angela is on. Please join it. It's actually a very inclusive community. Please join the newspapers. We made it much more legitimate this year. And we call this much more regular. So if you want to write, just go ahead and go for it. Also, the student government, the student council, I was president of it. So that's for each grade, there's a student government, student council, there's also Model UN I was involved in as involved with Model UN, and that's more like debate. If you want to speak publicly, you want to go to different conferences, and Model UN is more like you pretend to be part of the UN, and you're a delegate, and you get to meet a lot of other kids. That's a great experience, open to anyone. Also, there's community service, American Red Cross, club, all these clubs are open if you want to get your hours done, and also meet a lot of new people. There's also the yearbook, annals, but that's more like upperclassmen experience, but that's definitely 11th, 12th grade, you're interested in graphics, or there's an application process. So I think if you are looking for opportunities, they're always out there. Look for signs, apply for positions, and you might get them. Also, if you're interested in, if you like working with little kids, there's the Big Ship program, which is, I think, great for 7th, 8th graders. It's basically have a mentor. Also, in terms of summer internships, a lot of people do research over the summer, and I guess the primary way of doing that is sending out your resume and writing cover letters to professors. I worked at Columbia ISERP Institute for a summer, and that was through a specific program. So there are also programs out there that have also the Clark Summer program in Texas. So I applied for those. You basically have to watch for deadlines and research. If you're interested, I guess a lot of us have experience in research. You can come and talk to them. And also the Washington Seminar program. And if you're interested in politics, go out, apply for it. And it's run by some of our top social teachers, and they go to Washington D.C. to meet with different politicians and think tanks. So that was a great experience. And during school, it's great.
About the internship day. Oh yeah, my name is Stephanie. I'm sorry, but I had another job. I teach swimming. Yeah, so and what is for you next year? Internship and research opportunities is actually an opportunity that you actually apply for at the university, and you can take classes first of freshman and sophomore year, and then you can apply for your program. And it's pretty easy to get in, and you don't need the same connections with people. As long as you take those classes first, feel you can have a fair chance of applying for the program and interview and send your application. So because it's going to have the application that's usually pretty good. And once you get the internship opportunity, you can just take research with them. It's funded by, they have a research program, which is the National Science Foundation, I think. And they have a national sponsored program. It's both programs that you do research with, scientists, so that's really useful. Okay, last one, I hope, and I'm just saying, I feel like we've exhausted all of them except for the one I'm going to talk about, which is teaching internships and tutoring, which are great. Teaching internships are more of a thing that seniors do, but it really starts in 10th or 11th grade when you you have a teacher that you like, maybe you're in their class or maybe you know them from a club, and you say, wow, I'm really interested in teaching by itself and also the subject matter. And then there's also so teaching internships are a great thing to do in senior year. It counts as a course, but you really get to work with the teacher very closely. And I know I intern for 9th grade English with Ms. Rumpkin, and most of the teachers from what I know, they try very hard to influence you and
the decision process. It's pretty cool. You get to see sort of like the behind the scenes version of what it's like to be a hunter teacher. And let me tell you, it's very hard. So you should all appreciate your position. Okay. And there's also HSP in senior, but I think maybe it's like again like these like I think what you guys can do from all of this is that there's so much to do at Hunter and outside of Hunter. Just go out and do it. Like two skills necklace, but yeah.
Well, like, not do everything, but find something that you're interested in and explore it, because that's really what colleges are looking for. If you have passion, they expect you to follow through with your passion. So, like, that's why, even though I like drawing and painting, but I'm doing programs, our editor of the newspaper, and I'm also my editor for the yearbook, and all that stuff. But, they really expect you to, like, they don't really care about clubs unless you have leadership positions in them. So that's why a lot of seniors and juniors end up taking up weird clubs so that they have, like, a president position put on their resume. But it really doesn't count unless you're actually passionate about it too. So remember what you're interested in and follow through with that stuff like that.
You shouldn't be doing things for college. You should be doing things because you love it.
Well, I'm saying follow your passion. That's important. And that's also what colleges are looking for, having
Okay, we have asked a lot of questions of all the students, and I think they're very informative. And we still have a lot of questions. I try to combine some of them, and let's make it quick. And because we still have college consulting that
Can I ask a question?
sure.
How many of you actually tried to counsel in your junior year?
Well, it didn't matter because it was a totally different person in senior year.
That's what I want to know. Did you then go back in senior year to reconnect with different? How many of you met more than once?
Wait, with the old counselor or the one that
The new one that's going to write. How many of you were convinced that they knew you really well and were going to write a really excellent recommendation?
Not really.
Amy's also a pessimist.
Okay, well, I just had a much faith in my counselor. We also had several different counselors, and they basically, although like a lot of my peers say they really like their counselor and had a lot of help about choosing colleges and stuff, my counselor didn't really help me that much, and I didn't really meet with her that much besides they required like mandatory meetings. But that's not really a good thing. It's only because we had so many different counselors for like a year. So since you guys are actually going to have permanent counselors, it's a good idea to get to know them. And their recommendations will get better if they actually know you, so it's always good thing to actually do things.
Okay, we are trying to make a little bit quick because we still have a college consultant, very experienced consultant, who's graduated from Yale University as a previously another field, which will speak to us with what college is looking for. But before that, I still have a few more questions. I try to consolidate them. That's one of the signature pictures, question that every year that the parent wants to ask. They said, how has your relationship with your parents changed to 7 to 12? And what do you want the parents to do? What do you think that you want parents to do more, or what do you think that you want parents to leave you alone? Let's make it very quick, please. Thank you.
Is it true that I speak for everyone when I say that our parents have given us more freedom? Yes. Okay. Is it true when I say that a lot of us did not show our parents any aspect of our college applications? Yes. Sort of? Okay. Who showed their parents something of their college applications? Okay. Who did not show their parents much, if anything? Okay. I know my mom got really mad at me because she thought I didn't love her when I didn't show her any of my college applications. That's not true, Mom. I still love you, but like I just think that if your kid doesn't want to include you in the college some space, because we've all gotten some space from our parents and then
Just, I guess for parents, deadlines, you should keep in mind deadlines. We're not really good at those, but we're good at arguing. So if you tell me like a month ahead, we're not going to remember it a week later, so you might want to keep up on that.
Definitely, if you have older siblings, I would take your parents' advice and your older siblings' advice into account, because my parents were very well versed with the college
my sister, so they were very helpful, very encouraging, not very strict or very pressured, I don't think. And I know for me personally, like my parents were there every step of the way, so definitely help them whenever you have any questions or you are in need of any support. Thanks. Also, advice to the parents, I think that you should not force your child to go to school that they don't want to go to. And like, while I was deciding for my colleges, I talked a lot with my parents, and ultimately they let me go to the school that I wanted to go to, and I'm forever grateful for that because I know I'll be really happy there. So I think you should really listen to what your kids want. Don't force them to be a doctor or a lawyer if they don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer. So just let them follow their interests. Of course, provide advice because you have more life experience and you know what will happen in the grand scheme of things. But also listen to them and have conversations. Don't just argue.
Well, personally, my parents were really supportive throughout the entire process. So, my mom made a joke that as soon as the good results would come in, no matter how bad, as soon as the results came in, we go out for Korean barbecue. That was a huge joke. And basically, parents are if I give any advice to parents, please support their kids. Don't blame them when they don't get into school or anything. Really, it's so arbitrary, and just help them out. If parents are you can definitely help out with your college applications, but I think it's really up to the kids if they're comfortable with it. I consulted my parents, and they would give honest opinion, I think one good thing to ask your parents maybe essay topics, since they should know you pretty well. So if you're I help dog ideas off my family, just to kind of think about what college essays to write about, and also I think another process that the family should do together is financial aid, because that itself is a whole other monster. So definitely, I think that should hopefully be a collaborative process among the families.
For financial aid, I actually recommend that you get someone a professional helping do that, because a lot of my friends had problems getting financial aid because their parents didn't speak or write English, and it just takes a lot of stress off because you don't want to be rushing for financial aid the day before it's due. So just hire someone to get that out of the way.
But again, financial aid is not your application. So again, I'm going to be the terrible one in this group and say that I didn't complete some of my financial aid applications. I still got into college. It's okay. Don't freak out if your kids don't do it on time. Whatever. Sometimes but get them done. As long as you get them done in the end, you'll be fine.
Okay, one last question. Make it quick. How important is your essay when you apply to college? And just share it if you want. Could you share with your essay topic with them if it's okay?
I think that's really important because it's really what distinguishes you. Because you can write down that you're passionate about this or something, but there's millions of people around the country, and the essays will have talking about that passion that makes you passionate about this or president of that. My essay topic was I play a role in the youth orchestra outside of school, and I actually wrote about that because it's something I guess I'm sort of passionate about. Yeah, so I thought it was really important, for my college.
So I applied to CAPA Union and I thought I had to write 5 essays. So you wrote something about community service, one about someone you admire, and about something you read, and something that you do outside school. The activities you do at Hunter really do write your essays. For one of my essays, I did write about track and field. So it's a good idea to join a team, really show dedication, and you'll learn a lot about yourself, and it would really help in the college process.
Yeah, you can arguably say that the essay is the most important part of your application because there's only other people who have the same qualifications that you do, and your essay is the most important part. So it's also important to know that you don't really want depressing essays. The colleges are, it's sort of better to have a feel-good essay, like at the end you overcome something, or like end on a happy note rather than a really depressing note. So I wrote about actually making comics, because I'm entering a comic making club at Hunter, and I wrote about how like actually printing, selling copies of my own work really like encouraged me to follow through on passions, and also gave me hope for the future.
So my essay was about how, well, I also wrote about track and field, and my essay was about how, as a Native American, I was the only one running under me, and how I beat everyone. But it was, like Katie said, it was a feel-good essay about how I overcame the obstacles I had to go through, and how it helped me in the long run. Like all college essays, they all seem really, they all seem to have a simple subject, but at the end, it's really important to try to find this overarching, sort of like a big idea, and that's really important. And if you're applying to several colleges like I did, there are going to be a lot of essays that you have to write, so you really have to start them early. I wrote mine last minute, which is not a good idea. So start early.
I was really lucky. I only had to write 2 essays since I only applied early, but my Common App essay was related to science, because that's a big passion of mine, and my supplement essay, which you guys will have to do for certain colleges, was about my personal growth through like a medium such as art. So I sort of like relayed different parts of my life and made sort of little vignettes. But I think just in general, don't feel obligated to write something if like you have a sort of stereotype of what the college wants. Like if this is an engineering industry, like if it's an engineering college, you don't have to write about like loving engineering, right? You can write about like something else. And yeah, get started early, that's my only advice. I wrote so many essays for this process. I think I wrote 8 or more, but it's because I applied to a medical program and they wanted 3 different essays about medicine. And so, but my general college essay was about, being at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which is my favorite museum, and I just talked about why I love being there. And I think it's really important that you write in your own voice, because I read a lot of college essays before writing mine, and some of them will be a little more unique and written in a very different way. But if you're not that type of person, don't try to write like that, because college admissions officers read so many essays and they know when you're not being you, and they can tell. So it's really important to just be yourself and write what you like, and be honest.
I can't agree anymore. You really want to be yourself in your essay, because what you write in your essay reflects you as a person, so you don't want to make up who you are. I was very strange in my essay. I had intended to be a classics major, so I actually wrote my Common App essay partially in Latin, but I related it to my personal growth, how I am as a person, and how this actually one specific course shaped me into what I want to be. So just go with whatever you feel is right. Don't feel like you have to be someone else or write things differently. And if you want to be strange, you can go to a certain extent, but just don't be too weird.
I got very lucky in the college application process, because even though I had a lot of essay prompts to write, I actually ended up pretty much just reworking the same 2 essays, because if you write about a large enough topic, it fits a lot of things. So, I mean, I wouldn't say aim for that, but like, don't make more work for yourself than necessary. And also just one more thing, like as an English intern, I also find myself saying this to my internees a lot, which is don't be afraid to cut things out. Like, I know everyone has their own process, but when I wrote my essays, I just had I started a Google Doc at the end of August. And then I just added all my drafts, and then at the end I had like a 50-page Word document from like all of my different essays and all the different times I've rewrote the same time, because I never I never deleted it because you can like you look back and then you say, okay, this didn't work, but this did. So you can like cut out like half of it or like a quarter of your essay, and like sometimes that's what it needs to be better. So don't be afraid to do that, I think.
I used to swim competitively when I was little, and like now I started swimming just for my own enjoyment, like throughout high school. So that was like one of the major things that I wanted to emphasize in my college application, that like swimming was still a really important thing to me. So I had it like in my extracurriculars list, like near the bottom, because it wasn't like a huge thing. But my essay basically talked about the sensations that I had while I was in water, like after diving. And I feel like you can use your essay to really like enhance one of the minor parts of your application if it really is important to you. And I was actually really lucky too, because that was one of my essays that I wrote in the spring of my junior year, and my English teacher really loved it. So yeah, so make sure like you can rework those drafts if you find yourself running out of time, which I did.
Your friends are your best tools in this process because they're the people who know you and know how you write. So if they read your essay and they're like, this doesn't sound like you at all, you know there's something wrong with your essay. I wrote my essay about an artist, Rene Magritte, and how his work changed my life. And I can rework that to like 3 different essays.
So,
Common App and Out Year instituted a 500-word limit, which drew some of us crazy. But really, as Grace was saying, being concise is a good thing. I think 600 words, some people went over to that and that was okay, but if you can say less, it's obviously better to say more and less, because they have to read through a lot of essays. And so cutting is a good thing, but make sure that you still have your voice come across. My essay topics were, I wrote 2, a main one, Common App one, and a supplementary one. I tried to go for an Edgar topic for my first one. I wrote about how there was a controversial column published about religion in the school newspaper. I wrote a response, kind of trying to defend the role of religion in education, so that was more of like my brainy topic. And then for my supplementary one, I wrote about being a twin and interspersing kind of this dynamic of being a twin and trying to be an individual and a part of a team at the same time with an image of being in a tennis game. So that was my name, yeah, because I am a twin. So I think the best piece of advice I can think of is when you're thinking about essays, try to just list down 3 things that you really want to come across in your application. And those 3 things you come across in your essay. So, for example, if you're really committed to like community service, that's what in your essay. So, for example, for me, my first Common App essay topic was about this community service project that I led, which is basically like, Build-A-Bears. So I basically ordered hundreds of these little unstuffed animals, and then they had a Key Club project where everyone would pay for it, and then they would stuff it. And it was kind of funny because I started off saying like everyone was stressing about midterms, but I was stressing about stuffed unicorns and stuffed bears around that time. So it was like a targeting way to kind of start it. But my second topic was about Alexander McQueen exhibit, so like the other art topics. So basically I went through it over the summer, and it was called Savage Beauty, and it was really interesting, and I talked about how like the different outfits related to my different interests. So like this outfit was like science, this this outfit reminded me of like, primordial, history or something like that. And so like, yeah, that was like more of a brainy topic.
Wait, sorry, Richard, before because you were talking about word limits, and I messed up really badly on this one. I don't want any of you to go through the pain that I did. 1,000 character limit does not mean 1,000 words. Do not write a 1,000 word essay when you only need to write 1,000 characters, because 1,000 characters, I can tell you, is about 250 words, which is not 1,000 words. So read a lot of, you're not going to just be writing essays, you're going to be writing a lot of short responses or short essays. So read the text box carefully, or like the prompts, because they'll say like, 50 words or 500 characters. And then make sure you read it, like you think you read it, but go back and read it again, because it might not say words, it's probably characters, and you wrote too much.
Thank you very much.
Classes are all awful and everything else.
Wait, actually, the 1,000 character essay that Grace was talking about, it's a second essay that you'll written about your
extracurriculars. Don't disregard that. I know it's really short and like you still have to be as well rated in that essay as you are in your regular Common App essay. So make sure you proofread that like a million times.
But don't write 1,000 words.
Okay, thank you very much. On behalf of CAPA, we thank you all for coming, and we wish you very successful in your college journey. If you could stay around afterwards, we can put and maybe after the meeting, we have a college consultant to speak to us, and if you can stay around and maybe after the meeting, and if other parents have a question, you can answer them, but otherwise, thank you very much, and I really appreciate you coming. And we have a medal, and we would like to award each one of you and our co-president. And I hope someday you guys will come back after college and come back to share us with your college experience. Okay, we're gonna have our college consultant. Can you please stay a little bit because Anna would like to ask you guys some questions and do some interactive seminar. So please stay. Okay, before Anna starts, and I just want to say something. Today, Grace Lim's mother, Grace Lim's mother is here, and Grace Lim always comes here to support us, and her mother is also here to support us too, because her daughter is also getting to a very good school, and it will be very successful in our community, as we all know that she is a political figure here now. She is nominated for Congresswoman. So we would like to have Grace Lim come to share her experience, like 5 minutes or 2 minutes with us, and how we raised her to be so successful.
我是孟高文的妈妈，在这里首先感谢中和高中华人会给我这个机会，让我来跟大家介绍一下。我知道我们华人都非常重视小孩的学业，我的2个孩子他们也都是 silence and brown sign， 可是都没有一个近汉特，非常遗憾。不过在这里我要非常恭喜各位同学还有家长，能把你们的儿女教育的这么成功，做成进这个最好的那个初中高中。今天我在这里也是想呼吁一下，因为今年的第6选区华裔只有1位孟高文参选，所以我希望我们所有的华人能够投票的都能够出来，在6月26号支持孟高文，因为这个机会是很难得。只要我们所有的华人团结起来，孟高文一定有机会选上。因为这次的机会，我可以说是非常的高。可是我们这样大家都出来投票，就能100%的赢。所以在不好意思利用这个时间，占大家一点时间，把这个讯息传给大家，就是希望6月26号一定要出来投票。谢谢。
现在我再讲一点这个批评的事情，就是华人批评努力做一个桥梁，就是在学校和这个家长当中沟通。现在有个问题就是说，前不久开会的时候提出一个问题，就是说，是不是我们需要翻译？这个现在就是说。学校现在也考虑，因为要提供翻译，可能要有一些花费在里面，所以我就是不是我们就是每次开家长会，我们华人呢参加数量比较少，那么就是说 华人为什么参加会比较少呢？我想是不是这个语言是不是其中一个原因？如果现在我想这样问一下这个问题，如果大家觉得就说如果是有翻译的话，你会去听过那个我听说那个 Stevens 开始有那个同声翻译，是不是？Stevens 开始，他就说你这个这边开会讲英文，这边同时中文给你翻译出来了。那么如果我们他们要提供这个服务的话呢，大家能去开会的话，请举手，看有多少人？没有人，有。看来不多。那么两个配了，2个。那现在就说还有一个问题我就不明白，我们华人不去参加那个这样的会，主要原因是什么？是路远还是什么？还是时间？路远的话我们有车呀，有车给你送回来。每天晚上那个车在从这学校9点钟出发，然后给你送到会回来。你说姐姐有没有这种今天能够来这个参加这个会，真正需要翻译的国家呢，正好是时间不在。一正反正就是，但是呢，总而言之吧，就是希望那个大家去参加这个公司那个家长会。因为我们他们这个华人是很多，但是声音很小。因为我们华人在每个州里大家都叫做 kids 是 hard working， intelligent， speechless， 就华人声音很小，所以人数很多，声音很小。最主要原因就是这个大家这个要去参加会议，好不好？还有一个问题就是我们下一届这个华人 PTA 的这个。大致候选给大家讲一讲，就是这个 bus coordinator 是云中书，他这个中文图书馆全图书馆 coordinator 是朱连寿，小丹张 communication coordinator 于光灿，这是treasurer 林立颂。And Evelyn Chu. Event coordinator, Fang and Xi Wei. Database coordinator, Susan Wang and Ellen Su. Co-president, Whitney Tu. And co-president, Dave Wang. Co-vice president, Wen Jing Tao. Co-vice president, Peng Li. Co-Vice President 方正，就是这个大家提出来的这个候选名单，现在还有这个就是 opening， 就是我们需要好多家长出来积极这个出席活动，就是共同把这个 PTA 做好，大家希望有人参加。然后你这个大家参不参这个表？这个温馨的表，希望大家都签。做什么工作呢？希望你这个最后呢，大家讲一些自己在表上讲的问题，好不好？现在看你们有没有什么问题？没问题，我们把这个就是大家就举手通过了。有问题吗？有没有问题？有你可以提出来。有没有问题？如果就是我们这个communication coordinator， 这个职位有没有人愿意做 communication？ 就是我们还需要一个人，有人愿意做吗？有没有人说这个？OK， 不进了。OK。还有这个bus coordinator， 我们还需要一个人，这个有人愿意做吗？有没有人愿意做？大家的积极服务啊，参加PTA活动。看这个 database 这个有人要做吗？ 是这样，那我现在不想浪费多的时间，然后就把这个话筒给安娜，让她讲一讲，就是课程一些内容问题，好不好？安娜，安娜。
First of all, congratulations to all of you. I think you've all been very supportive and helpful. You have such incredible and exceptional students, really outstanding. So, a couple of quick things. How many 7th and 8th graders are here? Okay. Here's something. It's too early to worry about college. It's just too early. 7th and 8th graders are still disorganized, and it's okay for them to be disorganized. They're still a little bit unfocused in their interests. That's perfect. They shouldn't be. They can't hear me.
You know, when you're in 7th and 8th grade, it's okay if your child is unfocused, prefers to do other things than homework. It's okay. Colleges do not look at 7th and 8th grade at all. Okay.
Okay. If you're in 7th and 8th grade, the colleges don't care about your grades. That doesn't mean you should do poorly, but it also means you shouldn't worry about your child yet. It isn't a fully formed individual yet. So be easy on it, right? I mean, 7th and 8th, you're just having fun. It's okay. Colleges don't look at 7th and 8th grade. I get this question quite a bit. It's the perfect time for a child to maybe start to work on a diary. Have you noticed all these kids are talking about their essays? In the essays, the Common App essay has a couple of questions that you can choose from. And I'm going to read you the Common App essay. This is for the juniors that you know. I'm screaming, I know. Can you all hear me now? Yeah. Okay, good. Here's what you have from Common App essay possibility. You can pick your own, or you can evaluate a significant experience, achievement, risk you have taken, or ethical dilemma you have faced and its impact on you. That's one thing. Anybody pick that particularly? Okay, good. You can also pick your own at the end. But at the end you can pick something that's not even on the list. You can discuss some issue of personal, local, national, or international concern. There's a huge difference between a local, international, or personal concern. So those are like three completely different aspects. But if let's just say you pick what's very popular, which is the college's interest in your personal concerns, but you weave into it local or international things as well, then you've covered it all. That is outstanding. You need to do that. But the reason I'm bringing this up with 7th and 8th graders is it's never too early to start to keep a diary where you write your feelings down every day, every week. It's a silly thing. Most kids think, oh, what's the point? But when they're juniors, those kids that have diaries are much more comfortable writing about personal things. Why? They've been doing it for some time. They have a sense of how they feel about things. I'm going to rephrase that, so I think that's a good point. Encourage them to start in 7th and 8th grade, and maybe by 9th grade. This is a really important thing because of writing. Writing is the single most important thing. Even if you become a doctor, or a lawyer, or you go entirely into the sciences, they will want you to write well. And you guys are so lucky. The Hunter kids write well. They are really ahead of most of the kids I see in front of them. Where writing is a huge issue. I'm sure every one of these essays was really outstanding. First time round, second time it got better, third time, they tweak it. But these are really excellent writers. And how many of you felt that it was important to show your essays to your kids went to their teachers and said, what do you think of this? Did you all get some sort of feedback? You felt it was read? It wasn't at all, right? That is what I encourage in other schools. You guys already do it here. One of the things I've heard about here is find out what you're passionate about. What happens a lot is that kids think that everybody is doing more than they're doing. So they get all nervous about, I should be doing this, and get too many things. An application that is filled with too many activities cancels in self-doubt. This is really true. I've talked to admissions officers. I've been doing this now long enough that I've talked to national admissions people who read the essays, who are looking for people. They say kids who are doing too many things are not really dedicated to anything. Well, this is something where you kind of have to restrain yourself. A couple of kids said passion, track, art, what else do we have? Music, science, humanities. So everything, they have lots of things they're doing. I know they're very high achieving kids. These are the leaders of our future. These kids are really the highest achieving kids that I've met in my course. And ones I've met. These are great, outstanding kids. However, if you're bringing up the next generation of kids, don't expect them to do everything well. I have a handout that talks about that. We're just writing on something. It says basically, colleges are looking for students who are excellent at something. Notice I say something, not some things. Frankly, you can only be truly excellent at very few things at a young age. I mean, how excellent can you be at everything? It's ridiculous. So pick, start to pick around 9th, 10th grade. You know, what is it you want to spend your time on? What should we rethink? What leadership positions, if you're interested in leadership positions, are going to do? You can't do it all. And just being, one of the kids said something interesting, just being on a team, just being part of a team is not as outstanding as maybe starting your own club. Did anybody start a club? Yeah, or okay, or save the club. In other words, it shows more leadership to be start something or to be with anybody in a management or higher position in their club. So this is important because your kids have only so much time and they're going to have so much homework. Junior year is going to be terrible. Was junior year terrible? No? Too smart. I mean, it's a hard one. Everybody expects their class to be the most important class. So you can't go to any teacher and say, I didn't get my work done because they're bigger, that's the important class. So I'm only saying this because you have to pick your activities. And you want to be in a leadership position, if possible, and if not, you want to show that you have interest in either a starting club. Hunter has a ton of possibilities with starting a club. I'm going to say this because you're going to laugh and think it's silly, but it's better to find something you're interested in and find a group that wants to do it with you and start a club than it is to be in 2 or 3 other clubs that you're not that interested in and you just are going because you want to show up. You want to have it on your curriculum. Are we getting it right here? Don't do things you don't really want to do. There's a lot of history. The other thing is, your college interview. How many took an interview? Wait, okay. Everybody interviewed. They say they're not important. They lie. They lie because they can't handle the number of kids if everybody did. But they're lying because if an individual alumnus, person says, I met with this kid is the person we need on campus, they hear it. They listen. The alumnus, somebody's writing a check to them. Maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 40 at the reunion. We just came back, my husband and I both went to Yale. Unfortunately, our son just finished his first year. We just came back from a reunion at Yale. Most of the president's speech was about, will you write us more money, more checks? Will you give us more checks? So if one of the alumni says, by the way, this is a great kid, they're thinking, okay, if we don't take this kid, that's not such a good policy. Because they also say, during the interview, really package. So I'm going to say, this is easy. Your kids are incredibly smart. They're incredibly self-motivated. They're already interested in so many things. But definitely get your kids to the interviews, either on campus with a student or with a graduate from the college. Very important. And I know for a fact that I got into college based on my interview. How do I know this? The interviewer came back to me and said, so how are you doing at Yale? And I said, I'm okay, it's hard. And he said, I really told them to take you. And I really wanted to know why. He went back and asked, he said, the determining factor is waitlisting. I'm going to say this, to be waitlisted at your interview. Make an impression, explain to them maybe what grade is appropriate. Or explain a little bit how excited you are about the things you're going to do. It's not all about the test. I'm going to interview saying all the things I'm hoping to learn in college, or hoping to accomplish. If they see you're anyway, do an interview. Very important. How many of you are absolutely natural test takers? How many of you get nervous? Natural test takers? How many feel like puking? How many are nervous? Hate it. Can't stand it. Okay. I mean, it's just nature. Some kids don't mind taking a test, others feel sick. The kids feeling sick are at a disadvantage. My son loves tests. He loves it. He loves that great. He'll go in there, I'll come out early, and oh, he never lost it. Sleep over it. Great. I got sick. I mean, I was really hated tests. What can you do about this to help your child? It's pretty obvious. You have to get them used to taking tests. On some level, they are self-motivated. Remember, this is Hunter. They will figure out a way to take SAT prep classes, or if not a class, go get the Barrett's book or the Princeton Review. Turn on your timer. Do not stop until the timer goes off. And get yourself used to it. Used to the stress, the time, the lack of time, too much time. Get yourself accustomed to taking tests. There's no reason to be still nervous when you go into SATs if you've been doing it a long time. Do you all agree with that? Is that helpful? Not the prep class. Don't you think if you do it by yourself, it's helpful? No, Grace, tell me, Grace, why?
Because if you I went to my mom said how to prep class, so I went and I went to adults. So
for you, yeah, no, I think this is a good point. If you go to prep classes, make sure it's all Hunter kids. That's much more interesting. If you go to the normal prep classes, you will be bored. Naturally, I mean, just think about it. You know 90% of the stuff anyway. That brings us to the SAT scores or the ACT scores. For you guys who are not yet juniors, who are younger, start to find a way to get used to taking tests. Analyze why you get so nervous, take normal. But for the kids who are taking the test, Hunter, you need to have a very high SAT score. This is really sad news, but it's the truth. There are kids getting 2400s, there are kids getting 2380s, 23 something, 23.
Well, the SAT scores, they're really a big problem. Would any of you in the back mind moving forward, then I don't have to use this thing? There's some chairs. Just come on forward. No, okay, so I'll use this thing. Okay, I don't like to stand in front of the kids because they're the stars. They're really not stars. So I'm just saying that if you're at Hunter, you know you need a high SAT score. For some of you, ACT might be useful. It's a different kind of test, and it goes a little bit towards more the arts side of the brain. It's a little different way of thinking. It's still hard. There's no doubt about it. But I think you have to accept if you're at Hunter that you will at some point be basically competing with your peers when it comes to SAT. So study SAT. Do vocabulary early. Some kids start their vocabulary. And what's wrong with that? So you read a Dickens novel during the summer. These are simple suggestions. You read Dickens, why? Vocabulary. None of these kids probably. Did any of you read a Dickens novel? Oh, you did in school? Which one did you read? Anybody from Great Expectations want to read another Dickens novel? Okay, 3, possibly.
I'm just saying it's a way to improve your vocabulary. I think this is important. Vocabulary is one of those things that in the SATs can make or break it. You suddenly do everything really well and you get to the words and you just don't know one. That's tough. And what a way to decide whether you're going to get into college or not based on some words you could have been studying the year before. So that's one thing. The other thing is summer, get to know your counselor. I'm so proud of these kids up here. They got to know their counselors, the ones that left. They got to know the ones they left, and then they got to know the new ones as well. Why is this important? Do you all know that the counselor writes for your students, basically a promotion of the idea that this is the right college? What are you all doing as the parent statement? The parent statement you send in, you all know about this? Yeah. Okay. For those who don't know about it, the parent statement is an online statement that the guidance counselor expects to receive. And they actually really want it. They expect to receive your statement about your child. Now, what are you going to write about? Considering they already know the grades, they already know the clubs, they already know all the accomplishments, they already know the APs, the SATs, all the grades, everything. So what are you as a parent going to tell the counselor? This is really important. This is the moment where you tell the counselor something about your child that only you know about them in terms of their personality, their perseverance, their dedication, or how they handle success, how they handle failure, a situation, for example, in which they were surprising to you. I wrote, for example, that my son surprised me a great deal when he was willing, at age 15 or 16, to go and spend the night with his grandmother, who was clearly losing her mind, her memory. And I said to my son, well, you don't have to go anymore. That's something you did when you were a little boy. You had fun and you went. And he said, that's my grandma. I'm going to go. Of course I'm going to go. She needs me. So I wrote that to the guidance counselor. I thought, well, maybe that's something he should know about this kid that certainly isn't going to be in the grades. It's not going to be in any part of his curriculum. Think about your child from a personal point of view, because it's the only chance that the guidance counselor has to know them from a parent's point of view. Very important statement. If you have more questions about this afterwards, just come up and ask me, because there are some guidelines and things that I would recommend. So I won't belabor the point. AP classes. How many APs? Who took the most APs? How many APs did you take? 5, 4, 3, 2? Before college applications. I just came from a school not too long ago where before college application, some of the kids had taken six APs. I am telling you, this is not helpful. It is not a good idea. Why? It looks like the curriculum in the school stinks. It has to. If that many APs are necessary, and that means you've accelerated, that means in that school, they're going to think that the curriculum isn't very good and that you can just accelerate easily. It's much better to get 2 or 3 APs that are seriously in a field you are interested in. Doesn't mean you have to become a historian or a biologist, but if you're interested in it, take the AP. After, how many did you guys take senior year? Okay, that's good. 4 or 5 is a normal amount for absolutely exceptional kids. That's a statement, isn't it? Normal amount for exceptional kids. And at Hunter, you're always up against your own classmates. They're all exceptional. So if you're a sophomore, get prepared. You will be taking APs. Wouldn't you agree that you should pick the ones that you are interested in? Yes, interested. Okay, then you can take the ones that you're ready for. Okay, then you have to assess basically why you're taking the AP or why you're not taking the AP. But don't get beyond 5. It's just not good. It cancels each other out. The college thinks you're just too unfocused, too spread out. And another thing quickly, and I'm going to stop on
On the college application, which is what I do, and I help kids with their college application, there's a lot of short answers. 175 characters, not words, characters. Yeah, we had that discussion on the word characters. So 175 characters, you wonder what can you say? These are really important because in those short sentences, 1, 2, 3 sentences, you give them an idea of whether or not you have maybe a humor, maybe you have a different approach. They don't just say, oh, it's short, let's make it unimportant. Wrong. They're important. Everything you write in the college application, the 3 things that they look at first, and this is coming from the admissions officer from Yale, another admissions officer that's a friend of mine at Princeton, another admissions officer that gets friends that I began listen to me at MIT, and they all say they look at SAT scores first, grade point average along with the SAT. After the grade point average comes the curriculum vitae, that is what you've done besides this, what kind of person you are. Then come the recommendations. Now the recommendations, if they're exceptional, can undo sometimes the weight of the grade. In other words, if you have a teacher that's talking about you in such glowing terms, you might actually not have to worry about a B+. I'm assuming most of these kids got only 80 and 90. Incredible, right? Some got A+. Some teachers don't give A+, but they would have gotten A+ if the teachers had. So these kids are not your ordinary normal kids. You are up against every year, that's what they expect. A's, A-minuses, but if you do get a B+, and you have, as a teacher, write about it or recommend you in a really glowing way, it can help. I'm just saying, it's not so special. Does anybody have any questions? Because I'm going to stop them. Everybody okay? You kids, I want to recommend that you take a little rest this summer because college starts soon and it's going to be a really exciting adventure. And I wish you all a lot of good luck.
I do have one question. Yes. You mentioned SAT first and then GPA after that, right? And if you put into an equation, what percentage of that SAT, GPA, and
Yale, they look at the SATs first. And if you're under a certain amount, basically 2,100 is the very bottom line for Yale. There's the last one. 2170 is the lowest for Harvard, 2100 is Yale, 2090 is Princeton, Stanford is 2100. They just basically, if you're below that, you're just not going to take the time. But listen, that's only how I least. There's a lot of excellent schools. That's the other thing I must mention. Hunter parents seem to think that, well, most parents seem to think, but if you get into an Ivy League school, your future is made and everything's easier. Graduate school nowadays is also extremely important. And some people would argue that if you don't get into an Ivy League, if you just don't get into one, it's okay. You have the entire college experience to prove you're exceptional, and then the graduate schools are really looking for great grades, and it's extremely competitive to get into graduate school or law school. One of the people on my team, I have a company now, I do this as a company, and one of my team members is only graduate school people, he just deals with graduate schools, another one is only law school, those are also incredibly challenging, and I think it's wonderful you've all got into great places, but if somebody doesn't, their life is not over. There's plenty of ways of going to Wellesley, Wesleyan, Vassar, Pomona, Williams, tons of schools. They're great schools. And then you go to graduate school. The other thing I wanted to mention is my company does, somebody has just the responsibility of financial aid. So SATs are about the first thing they look at. Then comes grade point average after you're over a certain point.
would that be another cutoff point for GPA as well?
Well, GPS is a little bit fluctuating. That's a good thing because there is sometimes, a year where the child is not, for various reasons, not performing at its highest. It can happen, death in the family or health issues, all sorts of things. It's a human factor. We're not machines. So the GPS is fluctuating. But they still want to substitute.
But you did study the process of all for the whole application, say 30%, with not 30%.
The first thing they look at is the SAT. If you don't get a certain point, they just throw out the application. They don't care about 400 GPA. It's that. They don't. The essay, they have to decide. Yale got 29,000 applicants. They took 1,300 last year. Do you know how much luck is involved? Just plain luck? I'm trying to tell you that there's a percentage that if your child does this, and this right, that child will definitely get in. It doesn't work. I mean, 29,000 applicants, 1,300. That's why when one of the kids said, don't give your child a hard time. Don't make them feel bad. Please, you have to realize they're working so hard. And then there's still this thing called luck. And here's another one. A friend of mine, daughter, brilliant child, applied to Yale, got turned down flat, got accepted at MIT for languages. Languages. Who thinks of MIT for languages? That's not what they do. They took her. The MIT now wants to change its image. It doesn't just want to be sciences and math. So she wrote down she's interested in languages. Did she expect to get into MIT? No. She got in. It's 4 years ago. And she's terrific. It's a great program. Would any of you even think of applying to MIT for languages? I recommend it. She's speaks 7 now. It's really good. But I'm just saying, that's not so clear cut. Another thing I want to just mention is that if you don't get into Ivy Leagues, there are some outrageously competitive and excellent schools that will educate your child phenomenally. And I have a list of those, and I recommend those to a lot of the people I work with, because in my opinion, it's not always the best thing for a child to go to an Ivy League school, even though I think their parents want them to. If they're not a naturally self-motivated child, and if they're not naturally inclined to study a whole lot, then maybe, going to some of these other schools is a healthier response to life. That's just a thought. Anybody else? Any questions?
Yeah. Did they look at whether you're the top 10 or top 5% of the school, like for the college?
What am I looking at?
No, I mean the college. They look at where the top 10 outstanding.
Yeah, they look at it. They look at it.
They don't have rankings.
But that,
They don't. No, there's no ranking.
so just if it's available, they look at it. But for 100, they sort
Yeah,
of do it.
we don't rank, so they can't really tell for
What they do is just look over our grades. Like for us, we don't even have a calculated GPA. So what happens is that on Navia, there's like an estimate, so you can choose to put that on your Common App, but you can also choose not to. And then what they'll do is just look over like comprehensively your transcript over the year. Just letter grade. I think it's more beneficial than public.
Yeah, there has been history of like someone with an 88 getting into Harvard. So like.
Yeah, but he was fencing captain of going to the Olympics. How many of us are fencing captain and going to the Olympics? Oh, I know what you're talking about. That you can, for example, you can get an 88, but if you're fencing captain and going to the Olympics, if you're an exceptional person, and that person actually did go to the Olympics, I think, I'm not sure, maybe they didn't. But if you're really exceptional in one thing, we have one person in Hunter who's on the ski team, the next Winter Olympics ski team. They left Hunter a year ago, but they left because they couldn't work out the academics. But what I'm saying is, if you have something happening in your life that's so exceptional, then of course they're interested in you. But most of us are not going to be Olympians. But that's a perfect example. I'm glad you brought that up. Because she's mentioning he got an 88. Was it an 88?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the guy I'm talking about was a fencer, and he got into They do look at kids who may not be absolutely great in everything if you've got something really exceptional. That is true. I mean, that is true. They break the rules.
Also, like, I think one thing I have to stress is that really, Ivy is not always the way to go. There's so many good schools out there. We researched, like all of us have sort of looked at other schools besides Ivy. There's some of them are really good. So
so competitive to get into. So like really keep an open mind. But our arts colleges are good too. If you like a smaller, hunter-like environment, local arts colleges are good as well. Ivy tends to be large.
Pomona and Williams are equally hard. Wesleyan is incredibly hard, wonderful school. Wellesley, if you go to Vassar, you go to 5 different schools because they have exchanges with Smith. Vassar has exchanges with Smith, with Mount Holyoke, Bryn Mawr, one more, I can't remember. Anyway, if you go to that school, which one is it? Yeah, it's another all-women's school. But what I'm saying is they admit you, and you have a chance to take classes in 5 incredibly elite colleges. So there's so many things you need to know more about. Really educate yourself about liberal arts schools versus arts. If your child is tremendously gifted in drawing and painting, there are some programs out there that have very successful alumni who go out and really take the world by storm in graphic arts, in contemporary museum pieces that are, there's a lot there. If your child is very interested in, civic areas, there's some programs that are building leaders for civic responsibilities. And these are things you need to know. You don't want your child just to generically go into college. You want it to go into the one that really suits its needs, what it's really interested in. So guess you guys did your research. Its needs, his or hers. Okay, fair enough. Any other questions?
Although it's the first thing they look at, their required SAT scores actually pretty low, like 200. So, and most students find it pretty easy to get above that. So in team sport, it's not actually that much stress to get actually the required amount that they're probably looking for. So
I think the hunter average for SAT is like 22. So, which is like everyone basically meets that minimum requirement, and beyond that point, it's about like other factors.
Which is incredible. Most schools I go to, they have 1 or 2 students that do 2, 2, 2, 2.